Welcome to the Fanatical Elfz Show, part of the Elfz Network. We are a bunch of wild and crazy Cleveland Browns fans, bringing you all the latest in Browns news. Tune in now. We are a bunch of wild and crazy Browns fans. That's right. We are the Fanatical Elfz Show. I'm John. That's Sam. We are here. It is a Thursday. Hope all Browns fans are doing well wherever you are tuning in from. Sam, how are you doing this afternoon or this evening?
Good. It's still the afternoon, technically, not the evening just yet.
Yes.
Trying to fix my lighting, if you can't tell. It's like rainy outside, so it's a weird here. I'll show you. It's a weird blue color if I open my window.
Uh-huh.
See? It looks
Ooh,
weird because it's
yeah.
blue because it's kind of dark and rainy outside. So I'm trying to fix my lighting a little. But
Well,
yeah, it's nice. Looking forward to this Texans game. Do we know if CJ Stroud is playing or no?
I'm looking right now, Thursday afternoon. There's been nothing out there on social media. I know yesterday there was some chatter saying that he was not probably going to be playing.
Yeah, it's unlikely.
Yeah, I would say it's very unlikely. It sounds like Case Keenum, the former Cleveland Brown veteran who is back up to Baker, who will be going at it against Joe Flacco, Flacco Mania. I know we're talking about Flacco Mania here on our Fanatical Elfz network. We've got the Oracle. Elliot's talking a lot about Flacco Mania. Listen to the What the Elf Was That earlier this today. Joel K, the left guard, he might be joining us. I'm not sure if he'll pop on here or not, but he also was talking about Flacco Mania, but he was talking about all those non-holding calls against Myles Garrett. I guess there's some sort of a 45-second video circulating showing the multitude of Myles Garrett being
he gets held all the time and no one calls it. That's what Mike has to deal with. That's what Aaron Donald has to deal with. If you're a really good right end or left end, I guess, edge runner at all, you're going to have to deal with no holding calls being called on you because it's the only way they can stop you.
It's always surprising to me, like watching these games, and and Joel points out a good thing that we all should understand. But I mean, the NFL is such a big business, and they want a product that is looks good and it's fancy, but the fact that they did not call any holding call at all last week against the Bears is just ridiculous because there's holding like Joel said, like practically on every play in the NFL, and it's really just it's kind of a judgment. And he believes that it was purposefully that they did not call anything. Garrett had pointed out the week before that he was being held, and so I don't know if it was the NFL trying to get back at Myles or whatever, but it's just we'll see what happens this week. It is NFL is high dollars. It's the Browns and the Houston Texans game is going to be nationally broadcast on the early game across most of the nation. So again, there will be a lot of eyes watching this game. Without CJ Stroud, I heard also that the Browns had been not favored, but then now with him not playing, they went from a 2-point underdog to a 2-point favorite. What do you think going into this game? Are you feeling better about the fact that obviously I feel better that CJ is not playing? What's your assessment with the quarterbacks and the Texans going into this game, Sam?
Well, I would have actually just a little off topic. I would have gone to this game because I live 5 hours, maybe less than 5 hours away from Houston.
Yeah.
But it was Christmas Eve, and so it wouldn't have been practical for my family.
Before you go to your point, what's so funny to me, Sam, is that when you and I talk about time and going places, and I lived in Kansas for 26 years. So when you mention to other people that might be tuning in that you say, well, it's only 5 hours, if living here in Ohio, if people that grew up here in Ohio, going 5 hours seems like forever.
It's just funny. An eighth of Texas.
Well, I mean, right. It's the perception that we have. So me going 3 or 4 hours to Kansas City from Wichita was no biggie. But when you start talking to people back east, about traveling 5 hours. It's just funny how we perceive things differently. Okay, on to your
Yeah.
point. So you would have gone to the
It's a
game.
4.5 hour drive, by the way. About 4 hours
Eh,
and 20 minutes, and it's only about if you're driving from the tip of, the border to the tip of, the top of Texas, it's like a fourth. Texas is massive, man.
it's
Um,
its own country, Sam. It
yeah.
at one point I think it was for a few days.
Yeah, but on to the football actually. I definitely feel better that CJ Stroud is out because CJ Stroud was really good. I still think he
Mhm.
probably will win Offensive Rookie of the Year, even though he's
Mhm.
been injured for the past few
Mhm.
weeks.
Yeah.
Um, but you always have to feel better about your team when or about the opponent when the quarterback is out. And so it's unfortunate for Stroud because he was having a really good season, but the Browns definitely are going to have a bit of a benefit from it. It is going to look like Case Keenum's going to play. And so I think Case Keenum will make it easier because he has never been a very good NFL quarterback. But I'm still a little worried because sometimes the secondary just decides to not remember how to play football.
Uh, Hey, it was well, and Sam, we were just talking. Welcome, the left guard, Joel Cade is here.
Mhm.
If
Howdy.
you're listening to us, if you're watching us, we're recording this right now, but it will be live later on this afternoon or this evening. We were just talking about the perception of Sam was going to go maybe to the Texans game, and it's a 5 hour jaunt from where he lives. And it's funny because I was saying how the perception of people back east, because I lived in Kansas, so 4 or 5 hour trip is nothing for Sam and I. But you start talking to people back here in the east, it's like, oh, what, 5 hours? My God, that's like. But like Sam says, it's like Texas is a huge state. Anyway, we're talking about CJ Stroud probably not playing. Joel, welcome to the show. CJ Stroud maybe not playing, and your perception of time. We'd like your takes.
So my perception of time would be a long discourse. Um, Given that my field in philosophy is phenomenology, that's very,
Yes.
very interesting discussion in phenomenology is the
Yes.
concept of time,
Yes.
particularly as it relates to narrative and perception and all these.
Mhm.
Anyway, but on to the real question, which is CJ Stroud. I mean, I would like to have played against CJ Stroud. Uh, he's a good
Yeah.
quarterback. I remember one of my very first podcasts I've done here for the Fanatical Elfz Network was a question of with the first pick, because I have some friends who are Carolina Panthers fans.
Yes.
And I tried to convince them that they should take CJ Stroud and not take
Yes.
Bryce Young. And they're like, no. This stupid test they're out there taking says that Bryce Young's the best quarterback. I don't know if that's the case.
S2 test, I believe, is what it's called.
Yeah, whatever test. It just, I mean, look, Lamar Jackson got like a 2 on the Wonderlic. I mean, does it really matter? The guy was an MVP. So, I mean,
Yes.
tests are dumb. But, I mean, going up against Case Keenum knows the Browns. Case Keenum should
Yes.
have a pretty good idea of what the Browns can and can't do, although it's a different team now than when Keenum was on the team.
Mhm.
But I think he won't be a rollover and die type player. So this will be a game in Houston. So
Sam and I was mentioning to Sam before you came on the air. Left guard, by the way, Joel does his "What the Elf Was That?" and I had a chance to listen to a bit of it earlier today. Check that out. We're on social media platforms, Apple, Spotify as well. So tune in. But you were talking a little bit. There's going back in time a little bit last week to the Browns game, and I thought your take early on in your show about the holding calls and the non-holding calls and the 45-second montage of video showing Miles getting beaten up, um and no holding calls at all day long. That holding can happen every play. It's happening every play, and it's really a decision by the NFL or because it's a big business and a lot of big product, what they want to put out there. So
right.
I wanted you to follow up on that. I know maybe some fans, I don't know if they've all listened to your show, but I thought your take on it, because the NFL is all about money and greed and the man or what's the term you use? Going back to
the Borg.
The Borg.
Straight out of Star Trek.
Yeah. Tell us a little bit about that take on Miles.
So just to preface this, if you're interested, I probably dedicate 20 minutes out of a 25-minute podcast to this discussion. And then I dedicate another 10 more in the Cleveland Browniacs to this discussion. So I want to start off by saying that I love football. I love watching football. I love talking about football. I love playing football. I love the strategy of football, but I hate the NFL because I think if you're talking about a pendulum, right? If you think of a pendulum, and on the one side of the pendulum is just football for football's sake, right? We're just playing a game for competition. And the other thing of the pendulum is we're here to make money for the sake of making money, and we'll do whatever we can to make money. One being like amateur sports, the other being WWE. I think the NFL is closer to WWE than it is pure competitive football. And the reason I think that is because of this holding, right? I think the NFL has decided that what makes money are people, quarterbacks, big names in the stadiums. That's why people go to the games, to see the big names. You're going to go see Tom Brady, Peyton Manning. You're going to go see the name. And then you want to see the name throw the ball all over the place and score points. Scoring points is exciting. Fans can get excited about it. So that's what you want to see. As a result, I think we're seeing a lot more penalties on the defense in terms of the secondary, a lot of the hits. Some of them are very deserved penalties. That guy Kaze over at Pittsburgh getting suspended is absolutely a viable and accurate thing to do. But the other way to do that is you got to protect the quarterback. And if you have defensive linemen like Myles Garrett, who has basically broken the NFL because nobody can really block him, two people can't block him. When you're that good, you have to find a way to keep your product on the field. Otherwise, you've got Myles Garrett just getting 15 sacks a game like the water boy. All right. Mm-hmm. So they've just decided that they're just going to hold and grab and all this kind of stuff on Myles Garrett. But it's getting to the point now where Myles Garrett, his health and safety is on the line. Yeah. If you haven't seen some of this, people are grabbing him by his face mask and ripping his head around, kinds of crazy stuff. So at some point, the NFL has to protect their pass rushers, and they have to ask themselves, how much like the WWE do we want to be? I mean, what are we about? And if you're about the quarterback sitting back and throwing touchdowns, then maybe you should just start the NFL flag football league. I mean,
well, this season has been very interesting. Just in general too, you've got teams like the Browns who are back in it. You've got the Detroit Lions who are having a very healthy, good season. You even have a team like the Tampa Bay Buccaneers riding the back of Baker Mayfield, who are kind of getting into the playoff picture in the NFC. Baker, by the way, had an outstanding game. We're not talking about Baker Mayfield anymore, but he did turn out a really good performance against Green Bay. It's funny to me because you think about the last time he was in Green Bay and played on Christmas Eve or Christmas Day against the Packers, and what a disappointment. I think that was that 21 season.
He grew up a Green Bay Packer fan, so I'm sure he went up there impressed and like really tried too hard. And then this year he probably went up there and said, "Look, I'm going to go ball out in Green Bay." You know?
Let's take a quick break here. We're on the Fanatical Elfz show. This is Thursday, and we're getting geared up for the Browns versus the Houston Texans. The playoffs are in sight. We'll talk about that and a little bit more right after these quick breaks. And we're back from that quick break, not those quick breaks, but that one break. Hope you enjoyed listening to all those scintillating commercials. And we've got Joel, the left guard here. We've got Sam Britton down there in Texas. Sam, let's shift gears and talk a little bit about the Browns again. Looking back, playing the Texans here. Keys to the game. I kind of want to start with the defense. We've talked a lot about them this season. We just finished talking about Myles Garrett. The Browns also have a myriad of players on injured reserve. Let's talk defense, though. Where do you see this game against Houston? What are some keys for you on the defensive side of the ball, and what are you looking for as we get going here on Sunday?
Yeah, a little bit off. CJ Stroud has 3,631 yards, which is 6th place, and he hasn't played 2 games yet. He's missed 2 games, which is really impressive. But
yes,
I think the whole thing about the defense has been forcing a lot of turnovers, and it's been an important part of the game, especially for the Browns, because we've had 6 turnovers. I mentioned it in my podcast. It's a 7-to-6 ratio of turnovers. Our opponents have had 7, we've had 6, and so 7 turnovers in 2 games has won us these past 2 games. And so I think the defense has been forcing a lot of turnovers, making the opponent make mistakes. Even when they make not a mistake, they are forcing turnovers and just making good plays. And so I think as we continue to look at this defense and watch them work through these injuries and see how they continue to play over this last 3 weeks. I think turnovers is going to be a very, very important piece of this defense, trying to, because with the offense, especially these turnovers that they're making, you got to get those turnovers back, basically. So I think these turnovers are going to be an important part of keeping the Texans off the field and also keeping the Browns in the game.
The line, like Sam, you and I were talking before Joe came on the air, we were saying how the Browns were the underdogs going into this game with CJ Stroud at quarterback, but now they're the favorites, how that flipped because they've going with Case Keenum probably. And again, you look to the defense to, maybe spark some turnovers. Man, I was rewatching some of that Bears-Browns game, and both teams had other opportunities in that game to even get more turnovers. The Browns had their hands on a couple other passes that were almost intercepted by various players. I think Greg Newsome had one that basically he had it and he dropped it. I think Martin Emerson had an opportunity at another one. But yeah, I definitely, it's been kind of the bugaboo. It's really interesting with this Browns team because they are 9-5 and somehow they've managed to get to this point, and they've turned the ball over so many times, especially early in the season. They've done a little bit better job more recently. Now, the last game or two, they've faltered a little bit. Flacco's thrown a couple, passes that just should not have been thrown. But where are you at, Joel, with on the defensive side of the ball and the keys there for you as you look at this game Sunday?
So I think what needs to happen, and I'm sure that Jim Schwartz understands this better than I do. Okay. What needs to happen up front is you got to create disruption. If you're going to have 2-3 people on Myles Garrett, you've got to start looking at other ways to get other people free runners or in just one-on-one matchups that they can win. So I think there needs to be a strategic effort to take advantage of people holding Myles Garrett and him forcing that up front. I think I would like, and I don't know if I heard this was addressed in the press conference, but I would like to see Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah on the field all the time. So I don't know what that's going to require or what that's going to take, but his speed is something that linebacking core could really use because, I mean, I like Anthony Walker, but he's not the fastest of guys. And
he was out last week.
Every game he's out there, we're watching some running back beat him to the corner, and what could be a 2-yard loss is going to be a 5-yard gain because he's just not a fast guy. So the secondary, I'd love to see one or two of our safeties get better. I'd love to see Thornhill back out there. Just looking at the injury report, and it's not updated for today, but Thornhill.
What is Thornhill's injury? What is his?
It's listed as a calf injury. So I mean, I'd like to see some healthy corners just playing on time. I mean, Houston's going to be a fast track in that dome. So it's going to be a matter of speed happening.
They really that team, they're 8-6, I believe, coming into this game. And you go back a year from a year earlier, the Browns, this is the first time that the Browns went down there with Deshaun Watson as quarterback, and the Browns were able to pull out the win down there. This team, though, and CJ Stroud, now minus CJ Stroud, but still, it's a different team. They have built confidence. The fan base will be, it sounds like it's, when I've overheard games down there before, they have a pretty good fan base. So I think that's going to be an advantage, obviously. And like you said, they're going to get off to they're fast offensively for Houston. So again, like in this game that the Browns played against the Bears, it's going to be, don't you feel like it's going to be a different style of game almost going into this one than from the Bears game? Like last week was like, you kind of projected that it was going to be a low scoring battle. I mean, the Bears took the lead, but the Browns were able to bounce back, but then they lost the lead again, but nobody kind of got away from each other. I almost feel like in this game, it's kind of like that Rams game or the Seattle game where, they could get down, but then how do they fight back? They've fought back. We're the Cardiac Kids 2.0. So I imagine that we will fight back, but I'd much rather see us take the lead. Do you guys think that the Browns, Sam, do you think the Browns can get the lead in this game early?
Yeah, I think it's definitely possible, but I kind of, these comebacks it kind of makes your team gives them like thick skin, I guess, for lack of better terms. Is it teaches them not to give up, and it tells them that I know they're adults, but it helps, especially with this whole mentality of we've proven we can come back and we've done it before, so why can't we do it now? And I think
You'd be surprised,
obviously,
Sam. You're as much of an adult as some of these players that are out there. So
some of these kids. I mean, Njoku was 19 out there when he got drafted.
Yeah. Well, it was interesting. Yeah, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Sam.
No, I think it is definitely. I think getting the lead is obviously good. It helps you. It'll give you it kind of messes with the opponent too. It makes them play desperate football a little. It makes them more prone to mistakes. But I think coming back from games and doing things like that is going to make the team a stronger and better team, and will make it easier for them, especially in playoff games where the intensity is high. They've already experienced it multiple times, and if their opponent has it, maybe that edge is what wins them the game.
Now, here's what I'm most worried about, Joel and Sam, is that I'm worried that Joe Flacco shaved this week, and he lost his beard, and I'm feeling like that was some good mojo with that beard, and now that he got rid of it, I'm a little more nervous. I mean, I'm superstitious. So,
I tell you what,
I'm not shaving mine yet. I'm keeping it.
I'll give you a serious take on the offense. I think a couple of those throws last week, one particularly on the interception,
yes,
a couple more were Flacco and the receivers not being on the same page.
Absolutely.
And I think that's going to get better. May not be perfect, but it'll get better. Each week that he's there, they're practicing, they're going over film, they're talking about these things, they get better, right? He's basically in the equivalent of his third game coming up, third.
Yep. Third.
I mean, he's still in the preseason right now. He's still in the preseason right now. So, or he's in the first month of the season, right? So teams are trying to figure it. If you think about him in relationship to what other teams are going through in the first month of football, they're trying to figure it out and all get on the same page, right? So that's kind of where he's at. And I think the more he plays, the more he does it, the better off it's going to be. I think we've seen improvement every week from Flacco. We know he's got the big arm that can make throws. I think it's just a matter of getting comfortable. Also, you can understand this is who Flacco is to a degree. He will throw a pick or two. This is why the Ravens went with another quarterback. They went with Lamar Jackson as opposed to paying Flacco again. So
yeah. So let's finish with this topic, and the title of the show is Playoffs in Sight. And I wanted your assessment on. So the overview here is that going into the game. It's, by the way, Merry Christmas to you guys, and Merry Christmas to all of us who listen to the Fanatical Elfz. You can again download us here on Apple and Spotify, follow us here on YouTube and the X. So the playoffs are in sight. The Browns will know come Sunday a little bit about the playoff picture and the AFC North. Cincinnati Bengals are playing the Pittsburgh Steelers. I don't know where that game's at, but that game's going to be played Saturday. And then Sam and I were looking earlier that the Ravens are where are they at, Sam?
9. If they win, if the Browns
what I was saying, where do the Ravens play?
49ers.
And is that Monday night?
Monday Night Football in San Francisco.
Yeah, I was gonna say I thought that was in San Francisco.
Yeah. So, but at least Saturday we'll have some assessment. I don't know who else is playing Saturday, but I know Pittsburgh is playing the Bengals. So
that game's in Pittsburgh at 4:30.
Okay. So we'll have a little bit more knowledge of where everybody stacks up. I don't know, like last week, if the Browns win or lose, if they stay in that 5 seed or not, but does anybody here know that?
I believe if the Bengals win, right? Let's just say Bengals win, and Colts win. Let's just say the Bengals and Colts win. Those are the 6 and 7 seeds. We beat both of those teams once, and so we stay in the 5 seed. If the Texans beat us, we will both have the same record, and I believe that might push them into our spot because they beat us. But I know that if the two people behind us, which are the Bengals and the Colts, we've beaten at least once, meaning even if they win, we have the tiebreaker on them.
This Bengals versus Browns game in the last week of the season, we've talked about it for a couple of weeks now. That's going to be a big game. And it's still 2-3 weeks away, but it's going to have some bearing on seedings and all of that. But I mean, realistically, Sam, you said off air before we came on that the Browns right now have an 89 or 90% chance of making the
90%, I
playoffs.
believe.
Yeah, 90%. Now, if they lose, you said it went down to like
77. And if they win, it's 99%.
Wow. Yeah, because that would be 10. Yeah, 10 you get. Yeah. And I think we've said that. Yeah, 10 you're in. You've said that a couple weeks now, Joel, and I've kind of managed that. It's funny because you go back to some seasons like was it the 2007 season with Romeo Crennel, that team got to 10-6 and they got ousted because Steve was reminding us, Steve Gill of the Dog Pound South, that last week the Browns won, but then the Colts and whoever they were playing decided like they weren't going to play their starters or something. And the Browns needed the Colts to win, I think, or something. And they lost. Anyway, that was the last time the Browns got close. Well, they got to the playoffs since in 2020. But that year, we all thought they were going to go to the playoffs in 2007, and they missed out. It was just, and what happened in that season, Sam, I don't know if you probably weren't.
I was alive.
You were alive. Born. But that 2007 season, remind me, Joel, if you can recall, but in 2007, they were needing some help in that last week and they didn't get it. But the week before they had played somebody, I can't remember who, but they blew it. They had an opportunity to win, and they couldn't do it. And they were in control of their destiny until the last week of the season.
So I'll say this about playoffs, John, just take care of your own business.
Yes.
If you take care of your own business, then you don't have to worry about what anybody else is doing.
Yeah, that's what I talked about in my podcast. I'm like, let's just win. Just win the games. We don't have to win.
But it gets to the bigger the overview, like Joel, you've been speculating just now, even on our show, about the NFL and big business and all this stuff and holding and non-holding calls. And what does the NFL want to see? Because you got a lot of people out there. I've got a lot of friends who are conspiracy theorists, and I'm not talking conspiracies today, but it's always interesting to me when you get to this time of the year because you can control some aspects of these games, like you've already mentioned. And so you want to say that you're in control and just take care of your own business. So it's just interesting because I agree with you. I see this other picture above that.
Well,
and it's like,
when I say winning, you're in, you have to factor in that the officials are something you're going to have to overcome. You're just going to have to overcome the officials. And when I say the NFL, tries to manufacture outcomes, I say that because I think the NFL is in conjunction or partners with ABC, NBC, Fox, whoever it is they've got contracts with, and they know that their money is coming from that contract. And those networks know that the bigger audiences they can get for their games, the better off they're going to get and more money they're going to get from sponsors. So I think the NFL has become a little bit too complicit in which matchup would NBC rather have, which matchup would Fox rather have, which matchup would ABC rather have. I don't think NBC's, I think it's CBS, but yeah, that. So, I mean, a situation you just got to ask yourself, if we win, but we're going to have to understand that the officials are going to be against us and we're going to have to figure this out. But that's just a part of it. Like when I was coaching high school ball and I played high school ball, we knew we go to a certain spot, we're going to get all the bad calls. You just, it's something you're going to have to understand and you're going to have to overcome.
Well, I have a basketball coaching tonight and I had game last night. So very understanding of that concept.
Yep.
when you're traveling, we're on the road twice, last night and then tonight. So it's something you just have to manage. And then you have to work with your players and your coaching staff and get them to understand to go along with that and try to, preach it, especially like young players that I work with, that this is something you just have to learn. And that's what we're talking about right now. But let's look at the final, your final takes here as we prepare. What are you looking forward to most? What do you think how do you think the game's going to play out? Sam, let's start with you and any predictions.
Well, I just want to throw something out here real quick. So the Jaguars are, let's just say the playoffs started right now. I know it's whatever, but we're the 5 seed, meaning we play the 4 seed. The 4 seed is the Jaguars, who are first. But the Colts, the Jaguars are 8-6. Colts also 8-6, and Texans also 8-6. So that means if 2 teams lose and 1 team wins, it changes. It just switches. So if the Colts and the Texans lose and the Jaguars win, they stay there. But if the Jaguars and the Texans lose and the Colts win, Colts move up. So the 4 seed who we're going to have to play if the playoffs ended is going to be very it's kind of going to be shifty depending.
Is there
on
any
how
way that we
everything
can get a
goes.
home playoff game?
No, not really.
There is. There actually is.
Oh no, technically there is. If all the high seeds lose and we end up playing like the 6 or 7 seed, we can technically get a home playoff game.
Well, Baltimore has to. If Baltimore loses twice and the Browns win out, Baltimore loses twice, we hold an AFC record playoff tiebreaker over Baltimore. So long as we keep winning out and Baltimore can lose 2 games between, I don't know who they're playing. I know they're playing the Dolphins.
49ers.
Playing the 49ers, the Dolphins, and I think they got the Steelers at the end of the season. I think that's what it is. Okay. So that's not out of reach, but I mean, with the Browns team we're looking at, I'm
Steelers. You're right.
Yeah. So here's my final take. If you want it, 2 things. One, Stefanski is 9-0 against the AFC South. So keep that in mind. All right. Yes. So hopefully
that's a good observation. Yep. 9-0. 9-0.
I want to thank my son Nate for that. He gave me that one. And the other thing is this, and I tell my son because he gets all nerved up and all this, and I'll just say, look, the Browns have had so many injuries, right? Quarterback, running back, tackles, corners, defensive ends, linebackers, everything. And we're running on the MASH unit. Okay. So at this point, anything they do positive is a bonus, period. So if they get all like they fall apart, whatever, that's what you'd expect from the MASH unit. But if they go out there and they play well, then that's a bonus. So don't get all upset over the Browns and how bad or how good or whatever they're doing. I mean, they're not supposed to be doing anything right now, which means everything they're doing is a bonus. So if you take that mentality going into the game, it's going to be okay. We're not going to have to throw our phones down in the third quarter saying this crap's over and go taking my dog for a walk. All right. Just hang in there. Just hang in there. All right.
Well, hey, I think I've clearly stated now a multitude of times on these shows and on social media that I am the irrational. I am the irrational fan here in the group, and I claim that title. I'm sticking to it. So
I'm just saying, John. Look,
I got you.
Just look. These Browns team is expected to do nothing. So anything positive they do is a bonus. Okay.
Yes.
Just look at it that way.
I totally get that. I just need to stay off social media during the games because that's the trigger.
I think you need to stay off social media, period. That place is just toxic.
It is a toxic place. Well, I haven't been on it as much as recently, with all my other endeavors that I do outside of the Fanatical Elfz. Any final thought, Sam, before we part ways today?
Yeah, just one thing. This Texans game actually holds a lot of playoff thing too, because I think I might have mentioned this already, but if we win the Colts and we already beat the Colts, we already beat the Texans, meaning because they're the 7 and 8 seeds, they can't jump us if we lose and they win. They can't jump us and take the 5 seed. So there's a lot of weight on this game. I didn't do all the calculations. I would have.
So now I'm stressed, though. Now I'm that irrational fan. Now you got me all.
Don't be stressed. Look, if the Browns make the playoffs, that's a bonus. But because we're throwing the MASH unit out there, the expectation is they won't do anything. Go ahead, Sam.
We're so close. We're so close. Come on.
I would have done the math and figured out what scenarios could have happened to see who we would have played if the 4 seed remains. But it's a good game. It's going to be an important game, especially for the Texans, because if they win, they move up. If they win, they can move up into the playoffs because they're technically out right now. But if we win, we basically are guaranteed in the playoffs unless some weird shenanigans happen.
Okay, folks, you heard it here from Sam and from Joel, the left guard. No, we're not going to do that. Browns breakdowns with Sam coming up later this afternoon. We've got the Browniacs also that'll be posting here this later on today as well. And we'll be pushing this Fanatical Elfz show out on audio. Please subscribe to us. Follow us here on the Fanatical Elfz. You can type in Cleveland Browns podcast when you go to Spotify or Apple, and boom, we pop up. You'll see the Fanatical Elfz. We've gained hundreds and hundreds of followers on the social media platforms over the last couple of weeks. Thanks to you. We're getting giveaways. We're giving away hats and ball caps and T-shirts and all sorts of fun things. So thank you again for following us and being loyal supporters of our shows. Go Browns. Have a great rest of your evening, and we will be talking to you later this weekend. We'll have a pregame show on Sunday and postgame following that. Thanks, Joel. Thanks, Sam. Go Browns.
Latest in Browns news. Tune in now.
Good to hear me again.